Anne is kindly the person behind the slides here, which is wonderful. But we just really wanted to, first of all, welcome you to this webinar. We're really excited that you're here and you're showing your own commitment to people with lived experience of care within the North West London system. Some of you may be new to working with people with lived experience of care in your health and social care roles, and some of you may not. And some of you may have your own personal lived experience of it, and some of you may not. But really pleased that you've shown your commitment to joining us today over the celebratory month. It was really important for us as North West London and with Dynamic to raise the profile of people with lived experience of care and explore how together we can work to make it easier for people with lived experience of care to join our workforce, making it the best place to work in North West London health and care, and also enable people to join our workforce regardless of backgrounds and experience, recognising that people with lived experience make great contributions to the workforce as well. So I won't spend too long really just talking through this slide, but the long-term, the NHS long-term workforce plan sets out how we were training people, how we are going to need to change practices in the future in order to meet the needs of people's health and social care challenges that they have in North West London. And we recognise that we need to do things a little bit differently. Being an inclusive and diverse employer in the NHS, we are already committed to that, but we need to deepen that to make sure that our workforce is representative of the communities that we serve, and that we tackle inequalities together and support populations better. We want to make sure that the workforce is representative of the people that we are supporting here in North West London. It's really, really important that there are young people and people are empowered, regardless of their circumstances, to live their full potential and lead a successful career and a successful life. And throughout the Care Leaver programme, which we've committed to in North West London for the last 3 years, we are playing a pivotal role in helping to make that a bit of a reality for our local communities. We've been delivering the commitment since we're a trailblazer for NHS England in 2023, and we've supported about 60 people to date throughout various different programmes over that time, working really closely with Dynamic to support people to access pathways into education and developing bespoke pathways for them to make it easy for them to understand the system and come in with the skills in order for them to be prepared and informed and ready to go through to a career in health and social care. As you can see on the right hand side, that's some of the things that we've been able to work with Dynamic on, and within our own system and our own partners as well. But really, we're really very pleased that you're here today and you're supporting local communities. And that's really powerful, just you being here today with us. So I'm not going to talk any further, just to highlight that we do have, if you are an NHS employee, we do have some exciting changes on our ESR profiles. We want to be able to know who has lived experience of care within our system and who's working for us, and there is an opportunity in which we can actually record that now. So that's an update that ESR has facilitated in November with the launch of Care Leavers Month. We do also have some additional resources too, and we'll share these with you after the webinar, just so you can go back and have a look. And they are designed to be tools which will help you better support people with lived experience of care as a manager, or as a colleague as well in North West London. So please do have a look at that. Dynamic have also added some interesting things on here too. But I'm going to hand over to Anne. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claire. And so first of all, just to look at who is considered a care leaver. So just some information here that people may or may not be aware of already. But care leavers are young people aged 16 to 25 who've been in the care of their local authority at some point since they were 14 and were still in care on or after the 16th birthday. So it's quite a specific thing that we're looking at regarding regulation and who is a care leaver, and that's around what people are entitled to. Typically, care leavers are between 16 and 25 years old. They must have been in the care of their local authority for at least 13 weeks, with the care period ending after the 16th birthday. The care arrangement can include various types of care. It could be foster care, residential care, or maybe possibly being placed with friends or relatives. And then just for your information, a care leaver is a term for a young person under 25 who has been in local authority care since the age of 14, while care experienced is a broader term, and that's anyone who's spent any time in the local authority care system. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And children remanded into custody, all children, though not all children in custody, are officially considered looked after children. So a substantial proportion of those children sentenced to custody have previous experience of being in care. So it's just to make you aware. Some common barriers to employment, first of all. Sometimes because of their circumstances, care leavers may have a lack of qualifications or work experience because they haven't had the same access to educational opportunities as their peers. There's limited support networks. Many people don't have family or mentors to guide them, so they don't have anyone to go back to at the end of the day if something's wrong. They haven't got anyone to support or signpost them. Mental health or emotional challenges due to some people have experienced trauma, so they may face anxiety or depression. Financial instability. People often have limited access to financial support for things like transport or housing, even things like clothing. And training and awareness for staff is really important. So provide training for staff on specific barriers care leavers might face. So not making it an obvious thing, potentially just going through things like your policies and procedures and talking in general about inclusivity is a good way of raising awareness in general about protected characteristics and protected people that may need that additional support within your team. So just some myths about care leavers. People will often think care leavers troubled, problematic, damaged, and people will stereotype them. Children enter care for different reasons. Sometimes it's parental substance misuse. They may have mental health difficulties, or parents may have mental health difficulties. And people often experience trauma and disruption through no fault of their own. So what they need is love, stability, and a supportive environment, not stereotyping. So it's often people have lived through stereotyping. So then when they come into the workplace and leave care, we don't want that to continue in the workplace. Care leavers are expected to manage on their own immediately upon turning 18. There are things in place for care leavers. So local authorities must provide support to care leavers until they're at least age 21 and often up to 25. This can include a personal advisor, help with housing and assistance with education, employment or training. But often care leavers drop out of this. They don't feel that they need support. They're unprepared. They experience a sharp decline in support from what they would have had already. So they can end up homeless and in isolation. So from that point of view, it's very difficult for them to then get back into work. And if they get into work, they may struggle or they may be struggling outside of work. So it's being aware. They receive enough money and know how to manage their finances effectively. People think because they've been in care, they've had lots of people telling them what to do. They get lots of benefits. They get help with their housing. So, people have this stereotype that they're fine. But many people have little or no experience of money or handling finances, and they're very vulnerable to debt. They often struggle with issues like securing deposits for private rentals, and getting things like, with other people, they may have parents behind them to support and speak up for them, and that person may not have anyone on their side to help them to do all of these things. Sometimes people will think that care leavers have a strong safety net and support system, but unlike many of their peers, they don't have any sort of family-like safety net when they're leaving care. So sometimes we take for granted, even if we've got one person in the background who's been there for a long time, sometimes care leavers don't have that. They've had very little consistency with the people in their lives because people often change and come in and out of their lives or are replaced by other people. So they may have had support, but it may not have been consistent. They may have past trauma. That can result in obviously isolation and also mental health challenges. People think that care leavers are housed in suitable and safe accommodation. A lot of people will be aware that housing instability is common. 1 in 3 care leavers experience homelessness or sofa surfing within 2 years of leaving care. Many report being placed in unsafe or unsuitable accommodation, and that's often because they don't have anyone on their side, or they have someone who they don't really know, who is just somebody who's recently come in and may be supporting them at this point in their lives. Care leavers do not have the same potential for success as their peers, but care leavers, like anyone else, young people have ambitions, they have aspirations, they see everything around them like everyone else. So there's absolutely no reason to think that people don't have the same potential for success. And we've seen that in the work that we've done together with Northwest London, where some of our care leavers have been very successful and progressed up into further education as well. So what support is there for care leavers? There's a personal advisor who's normally a dedicated professional that helps them often up until age 25. But again, that person can change because people change jobs or people leave jobs, and they're just as reliable as that job is, basically. Pathway plans, they have a personalized plan created with a personal advisor to outline goals and support needed for training, employment, housing. Financial assistance, they have some support with education costs. So there's a bursary for those aged 16 to 19 in full-time education. And for people pursuing higher education, there's a £2,000 bursary. It's good as employers or managers to be aware of that, because often people feel like they don't want to go and apply for those bursaries because it sort of shines the spotlight on them in work. So people will know that they're care leavers, and they're often masking and hiding that. So in conversations, and if you are aware, maybe it's good to say, do they need any help to apply for those bursaries? Sometimes they have to go to the local authority and fill in forms and things like that. So that can be quite daunting for a young person in general. Help with rent for private housing, which can be covered by universal credit. So it's good to talk to people and say, do you need any support? Do you need any help with form filling and things like that? That is only if they tell you that they're care leavers and you ask them, are you okay for me to do things for you or to support you? Like anything else, it would be covered by confidentiality in the workplace. So anything that's around sharing with other people, please ask for permission first. Staying put arrangements. So local authorities can support care leavers aged 18 to 21 to remain with former foster families if they wish. So they can allow them to stay put for a longer period if that helps. Additional funding for unaccompanied asylum seeking children. So sometimes asylum seeking children are on their own as well, and they fall into that care, having had care and being in the care system. So likewise, they would have the same support and then some additional funding. Local authorities are required to publish a local offer that outlines all legal entitlements. So if the person isn't sure, you can look or go to the local authority yourselves and get advice and signpoint them to what you think they might need. Mental health support. So obviously people in these situations and leaving care will often face emotional challenges. So it's worthwhile being aware of where they can go to for support. A lot of people on here will be NHS background. So is there anything within the NHS? Are there any organisations within the NHS that are supportive? Is it something that you can raise awareness of? Like Chloe said, that we've got the tick box now to raise awareness that someone can tick that they're a care leaver. Does that highlight anything within the NHS? So it's really important to look and see what organisations, and we are sharing quite a lot of information through these webinars to make yourselves aware of around mental health or any support services that people may need. So creating job opportunities for care leavers. Think about your job descriptions. Are they inclusive? From what you know about care leavers, is there something that needs to be added in or adjusted within your job descriptions? Is there something that would help, do you think? Work placements, apprenticeships, things like that. Can you offer work experience to care leavers or support them? If that's something that's happening like it is in Northwest London, if you're aware of it, how can you do that? How can you accommodate people? Can you consider giving a care leaver an apprenticeship because there's additional support potentially available, or an internship in that way for them? And they can then apply for bursaries and things like that as well. So it's just about thinking, what can you do, or what can you adapt accordingly to support people? Things like simplifying the application process, removing things that are unnecessary. Look at your forms and things like that and think, how accessible is that for a young person in general, but then for a person who may not have been filling in forms for themselves, may not have support from someone else to do something. Give constructive feedback, even if you are not able to help that person. Be honest with people, because care leavers can be very, very clued up and tuned into listening to people, and often will associate everything that's said to them to the fact that they've been in care. Like some people will, like, if, for example, I will share some quotes with you later on, but someone talked about cleanliness in the workplace and what was expected of them. And when she felt that she wasn't clean enough compared to peers in the workplace, she immediately associated that to her background and not to the fact that in general it was just how people dressed. She criticized herself, but everything related back to her own background, and she blamed everything and thought it was because of her background. So it's about, how can you get things across to people? How can you give constructive feedback that's honest and open to people? Offer pre-employment support, like workshops. Can you make anything available? Do you have anyone on your teams who have lived experience of care that would be a good person to look at your processes and your documents, your forms and things, or could be there and help with the application and interviews? And this is just a care leaver covenant strategy, suggested strategy that you could have in your workplace. So looking at your permanent roles, thinking about giving people structure and stability, thinking long term for people. So it's just some ideas and it's some guidance from the care leaver covenant. And this is a really good place to look for information and guidance, because they have employer toolkits that you can use. Thinking about internships, work experience, how would you adapt them? Can you have someone that has lived experience to take part in these things to support and mentor people? The same with apprenticeships. And then onboarding and training. Can you have dedicated induction programs? Tailor your induction plans. Thinking about mentors, again, people with lived experience. Having regular check-ins with people. Tailoring and dedicating induction program. Ensure mentors advice to care leavers when transitioning into work, and schedule regular check-ins. So when you set everything up, how have you set it up to check in and put that little extra additional support in throughout your processes? And then thinking about flexible work arrangements. Allow time for people to build a bit of confidence. Recognize and look at things like behaviors and pick up on things. Talk to people, listen to people. Don't presume is the big thing. Don't stereotype people. give people time to explain. If you notice something that is a behavior, can you talk to your team in general rather than singling someone out? Thinking about flexibility. If someone's leaving care, they're possibly looking for housing, they're possibly meeting with lots of people trying to help them and sort them out and advise them. Can you be flexible to allow them to attend those meetings if possible? Can you be aware of when they have meetings? What sort of support can you put in place? So everything needs to be quite clear. So again, the Care Leavers Covenant, as part of their toolkits, they give you suggestions. So you can have things like just have a checklist in place, and there's some suggestions there about the sort of things that you can use just to like reinforce. And this is something that you could have in place for all of your team. But are you looking at maybe being inclusive to people who are care leavers or any group of people? Is it inclusive in general, your checklists and your processes and policies? So thinking about a supportive work culture, encourage openness, foster an environment where anyone feels comfortable to discuss challenges, that people are open if they can be about their situations. If you have people who have lived experience, they're good people to raise issues so that it brings the conversation, opens up the conversation as well to support people. Remembering at all times to be sensitive to other people, awareness of mental health, being aware of where to signpost people. We don't expect people to, managers and employers, to offer mental health support, but just be aware of where someone might need to go to get support. Celebrate success, acknowledge and celebrate care leavers if they are willing to be open that they are care leavers. Try and celebrate that success, but ask them for permission if you can. That's all part. If you are working with care leavers, especially, it's part of raising awareness that you bring anyone forward if they're willing, because it helps us in our mission to support people further. Always be mindful of language and creating that culture of openness. So again, things to consider. Always ask before sharing information that's been disclosed to you. Think about meetings and things that people may have to attend as part of being supported leaving care. So they may have to have set meetings with their PAs. It may be essential that they attend those meetings, but they may struggle to let you know because they're trying to hide that. So if you take on a young person and you feel like they're going off at times, they're great when they're in work, but there's something going on and you sense there's something going on, that they're disappearing every now and again, and they definitely, there's something underneath it. Open up a conversation, and try and find out, do they have to meet someone? Is there something that they need? Do you need to support them in some way with something, to just to see, is that the reason? Because it may be that they're having to meet people to see housing. It may be that could be at short notice. So if you are aware, or if something is going on when you take someone on and they're a young person, it could well be around things like this where they have to meet somebody regularly as part of their support. They may be going through things and setting up things where they're told at short notice to come and see something. Some of the people that we've worked with in the past have been unaccustomed to time, getting up in the morning at a regular time. They may have a phone, they're on their phones, on social media and things like that. Leaving the phone, putting the phone down if they're at work, set standards, be open, be honest about why you need them to do things, and explain to people, but give them a bit of time to get used and accustomed to things like being on time. Discuss it with them, explain why it's really important, and use the same standards that you use with other people. But if there is something underlying it, like these regular meetings and things that they have to do, try to support them. Be as flexible as you can. It may be things like part-time work. Supervisions, a lot of care leavers have told us that they find regular supervision really helpful. Some people will put in something like a short 15-minute catch up every week with care leavers because you're just telling them how they're getting on. And then it's an opportunity to say to them, is there anything you're doing? Is there anything I need to support you with? Do you need anything from us? It's just such a good thing to have something regular because it sets something for them that's regular and consistent as well. How can you reinforce workplace policies and procedures if there's an issue without pointing a finger? Thinking about if you've noticed something, if you've noticed a behavior, can you just do a whole team meeting to reinforce that thing so that it's not making that person stand out, maybe during a team meeting or something like that? Um, Thinking about if people do need extra time at the beginning until they're settled down, can you support by extending the contract? Can they work part-time, but can you give that little bit extra in the contract just to help with that progression at the end of it? So, for example, if someone was on an apprenticeship, can you extend the contract maybe 2 or 3 months on the end to allow that time to maybe get them into a permanent position or to signpost them to higher education? But is there something extra you can do in that way? If you notice behavioral issues, can you discuss with the person, note or ask about things that trigger behavior? So it may be that something's happening with someone else in the workplace, or it's something that has triggered behavior over a long period of time. And like anyone else, if you notice something, it's good to get it out in the open. So how can you do that, avoiding judgment and stereotyping? So it's about open conversations and it's about addressing issues in general. Do you have a mentor on the team with lived experience or someone you feel who'd be supportive? You will often see that people will gravitate to someone in your team, and that could be people with all sorts of like could be any staff, but there's someone in the team that's particularly helpful and knowledgeable. So is that a good person to be a mentor for someone who's a care leaver on your team? One of the biggest things that we heard in recent meetings and work that we've been doing is about listening. So even during casual conversations, you can learn something that may be helpful. So just be, especially at the beginning, listening to what's going on, because that might be an indication of what somebody is doing or what they're going through at the time. They may be in a panic about everything that's going on around them at the beginning because they've just suddenly everything's changed in their lives. So this is just a slide with some common feelings that people have when they're leaving care. So you can see that there's some good, some bad, some concerning, but it's about just thinking if that was you and you'd been in care for a long, long time, you would feel at this point you're an adult, you're on your own, you've got to get into housing, you've got to get into work, and all of this is happening all at once. So for that young person, it's quite a lot to deal with without having somebody consistent to go back to in their lives. And these are just some quotes from a recent event where we had care leavers talking about their experience. And it's really interesting, the sort of things that people find when they come into the workplace first of all. So it's like people say that the dress code is business casual. I don't know what that meant. I didn't know what business casual, I didn't know what casual meant. So what did they mean by business casual? So think about the terminology we use and we're all used to. Would everyone, even with any young person, would they know what business casual was if they've always just been in their jeans and their t-shirts and hoodies and things? What is business casual? What does retrieve an email mean? So this was someone that was saying whenever they came in, we're also used to things like that in the workplace. Do we have to think about retrieving an email to the common things like that? Do we have to backtrack and show people what we need them to do? So it's like demonstrating things. Who's training people up at the beginning? Personal things like washing. This person said, I didn't know what staff did or expected. Was I clean enough? And this person didn't know. She didn't know like perfumes and things like that. What did people use? Makeup, what people wore. So she was really concerned, but she had great support in the workplace. She had one person in the workplace who was really open, just explained everything out in the open, talked about openly what people wore, um, involved other people in the conversation. And this person was so settled and happy that it's also, it was really interesting for her that the next comment was from her as well. I don't have resources. So to me, in the workplace, everyone had become like family. And she said that the workplace was homely. So it can often be quite moving when you hear young people talking like that. Just to understand me, this was another of the girls that were there, and she said, "My work ethic, I'll do you proud." And her employers were there, this care leaver, and she was doing absolutely amazing work for them. She was so good with IT and digital, and she helped to train other people up in the workplace. Another one, you can learn a lot from a person in an hour. So this was about listening. Sometimes, like I've said already, in casual conversations, if you're listening and hearing what people are saying, you can pick up things that can be really helpful. And this is just the final slide to leave you with. And I thought it was really quite poignant when someone said that whenever they left care and everyone started saying to them, "Oh, you're a care leaver, you need to do this, you can access this, you've got to find housing, you need to get employment." And this person said, "It was just my life. I didn't know I was a care leaver." So I'm going to stop sharing. And over to if anyone's got any questions, myself and Chloe are here to take them, but we hope this was really useful to you.
Thanks, Anne. That was really helpful. And some of those stories and quotes that you were talking us through are quite impactful and powerful, aren't they?
Yeah.
So thank you very much for sharing that, and helping to equip us all with some practical tools in which we can support people.